Ladies and gentlemen, throughout history, the greatest thinkers, leaders, and achievers have echoed one timeless truth. We become what we think about. Our thoughts are seeds. They carry the blueprint of our future. And whether we realize it or not, every single one of us is living today the result of the thoughts we have allowed to dominate our minds yesterday. Every great achievement that has ever been made in history began first as a single thought. It did not start with money, resources, or luck. It started in the invisible space of the human mind. Thought is the seed from which everything else grows. Before a building stands tall, someone first imagined its structure. Before a book is written, an author carries the idea within. Before a leader rises to change the world, he envisions a better tomorrow. This is the extraordinary power of thought. It is invisible, yet it is the most creative force we possess. Most people underestimate how powerful their thoughts are. They believe circumstances, background, or opportunities determine the direction of their lives. But in truth, life is shaped primarily by the thoughts that dominate the mind. When a person thinks consistently of success, opportunity, and growth, they begin to act in ways that create success. When they think constantly of failure, fear, and limitation, their actions align with those thoughts and produce struggle. It is not magic, and it is not chance. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect operating through the mind. The mind has a way of magnifying whatever it is focused on. If a person continually dwells on problems, those problems appear larger. The worry consumes energy, and soon that worry is all they see. But if the same person chooses instead to think about solutions, opportunities, and possibilities, then the brain begins to notice paths forward. It finds answers, it creates ideas, and it guides action. In both cases, the conditions of life begin to match the thoughts in the mind. That is why it has been said for centuries, you become what you think about. Consider the stories of those who rose from nothing to build lives of significance. Many of them began in poverty, hardship, or disadvantage. What separated them from the millions who remained stuck in the same conditions, it was not chance. It was not a lottery ticket of life. It was the fact that they trained their thoughts to focus on growth and possibility. They saw themselves as capable of more. They refused to let their environment define their destiny. Their inner vision was greater than their present reality, and eventually, reality bent to meet that vision. The same truth applies in small matters as well as great. A student who thinks of themselves as intelligent and capable will approach studies with confidence. That thought leads to discipline, discipline leads to effort, and effort leads to results. Another student, equally talented, but who thinks they are not good enough, will shrink from challenges. They will avoid effort, and their results will confirm their belief. The difference was not ability, but thought. It is important to realize that thought is not something random. It can be directed, chosen, and disciplined. Most people allow their minds to run without control, like a ship drifting without a captain. They think about whatever appears, often dominated by fear or negativity. Yet the mind can be trained. You can decide what to dwell on. You can choose to replace fearful thoughts with thoughts of courage, to replace doubt with confidence, and to replace limitation with possibility. The more you practice this discipline, the more natural it becomes, until your dominant thoughts are consistently aligned with growth and achievement. This is why the power of thought is the greatest possession you will ever have. It is more valuable than money, more powerful than connections, more reliable than luck. Because even if you lose everything else, if you can hold the right thoughts, you can rebuild, you can recover, and you can rise again. Thought is the blueprint of destiny. What you hold in your mind with consistency and belief, you will one day hold in your hand. When we look closely at the human mind, we discover something extraordinary. It behaves much like a garden. Whatever you plant in it will grow, whether it is fruitful or destructive. The soil itself does not discriminate. It does not care whether you plant seeds of abundance or seeds of despair. It will return to you exactly what you nurture. If you allow weeds of fear, doubt, and limitation to take root, they will spread until they choke out every possibility of growth. But if you plant seeds of vision, faith, discipline, and gratitude, the mind will produce a harvest far greater than you can imagine. The great challenge of life is that most people are careless gardeners. They scatter seeds without intention. They let television, gossip, fear, and the negativity of others sow ideas into their minds. Without realizing it, they are planting weeds every day. Over time, these weeds grow so thick that they begin to believe life is simply unfair, or that success belongs only to the lucky. But the truth is, life is simply mirroring back to them the result of their careless planting. The soil is blameless, it gives them only what they allow to grow. Think about the farmer. He does not walk into his field and complain that nothing is growing. He does not blame the land for being unkind. Instead, he carefully selects his seeds, he plants with purpose, and he tends the soil daily. He waters, he nurtures, and he protects his crop from pests and weeds. And in time, he reaps a harvest. The farmer understands that the soil works perfectly, but only in response to what he sows. In the same way, your mind will work perfectly, giving you exactly what you plant and protect within it. Consider a person who constantly repeats to themselves that they are unlucky, unworthy, or destined to fail. That thought is a seed. It sinks deep into the subconscious mind. The subconscious, like the soil, accepts it without question. Soon the person begins to act in alignment with that belief. They shrink from opportunities, avoid risks, and sabotage their own progress. Eventually, life reflects back to them the failure they expected. They may cry out in frustration, but the truth is simple. They planted weeds, and they harvested weeds. Now imagine another person who chooses to plant seeds of possibility. They may not yet have wealth, influence, or success, but they plant the thought, I can improve, I can grow, I can become more. That thought also sinks into the subconscious. The soil accepts it. Over time, this seed directs their actions. They begin to study, to work diligently, to surround themselves with uplifting influences. They start to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. In time, that belief becomes reality. Their life blossoms, not by chance, but by law. The beauty of this principle is that you can change your crop at any time. If your field is overrun with weeds, you need not despair. Begin today to plant new seeds. Remove the thoughts that no longer serve you. Replace them with ideas of strength, courage, and vision. It may take time. The weeds will not vanish overnight. But with consistent effort, the new seeds will take root, and eventually they will crowd out the old growth. The harvest you reap tomorrow depends entirely on what you choose to plant today. Your mind, like the soil, is infinitely rich. It will return to you in abundance whatever you sow. You are the farmer of your destiny, and your thoughts are your seeds. Plant wisely, tend carefully, and never forget, the garden of your life will always reflect the garden of your mind. Belief is the quiet architect of every human life. It works invisibly, shaping how we see ourselves, how we act, and ultimately what we achieve. Most people think success is about talent, luck, or opportunity, but the foundation of it all rests in belief. What you believe about yourself sets the limits of what you will attempt. If you believe you are capable, you will take risks, seize opportunities, and push through obstacles. If you believe you are small, unworthy, or incapable, you will stop before you even begin. Every achievement in history can be traced back to someone who believed, even when no one else did. The mind is like a mirror. It reflects back the image we hold inside. If that image is one of weakness, then weakness will show up in our actions. If that image is one of strength, strength will shine through. Belief is not just positive thinking. It is deeper. It is a conviction that drives behavior, a certainty that whispers, I can, even in the middle of uncertainty. When you build an inner picture of success, your body and actions begin to align with that picture. Without even realizing it, you walk differently, speak differently, and carry yourself with a quiet authority that others notice. Think of a student who believes they are poor in mathematics. Every time they approach a problem, their belief gets in the way. They hesitate, they second-guess, they assume failure before the answer is even attempted. The belief becomes a barrier. On the other hand, a student who believes they can learn anything approaches the same problem with curiosity. They may not know the solution immediately, but their belief in their ability fuels persistence. The difference in results has less to do with raw intelligence and far more to do with what each student believes about themselves. This is true in every field. The athlete who sees themselves as a champion trains with a fire that others cannot match. The entrepreneur who believes they can change the world finds solutions where others see dead ends. Even the person striving to improve their health must begin with belief. Without it, every attempt will feel temporary, fragile, and doomed to collapse. With it, the smallest action becomes a building block toward transformation. Belief is also contagious. People around you respond to what you believe about yourself. If you carry yourself with doubt, the world will doubt you. If you carry yourself with confidence, the world will respond with opportunities. Doors open more easily for the person who believes they belong. Even when challenges arise, that belief becomes a shield. It does not remove difficulty, but it strengthens the will to endure it. It is important to understand that belief works both ways. If you believe in your weakness, that too will manifest. People live small not because the world demanded it, but because their belief told them they had no right to be great. They surrender before they fight. They say, "I can't," and life agrees with them. The world mirrors back what we continually affirm inside. Belief is not built in a single day. It must be nourished. It grows when you feed it with knowledge, with discipline, with small victories that prove to yourself that you can. Every time you follow through on a commitment, every time you push beyond comfort, you deposit into the bank of belief. Over time, the balance grows, and you carry yourself with an inner wealth that no circumstance can easily shake. You do not need anyone else to grant you permission to believe. You simply need to decide that you are worthy of your dreams. From that decision, action follows, and from repeated action, results are born. Soon enough, the results confirm the belief, and a cycle of growth begins. This is why belief is so powerful. It sets in motion a chain reaction that transforms potential into reality. In the end, your life is not shaped by what others say about you, nor by the circumstances you were born into. It is shaped by what you choose to believe about yourself. If you believe you are capable, you will act capable, and those actions will carve a capable life. If you believe you are destined for more, you will pursue more, and your destiny will rise to meet that vision. You are not limited by the world. You are limited only by the picture you hold of yourself in your mind. Believe in greatness, and greatness will begin to believe in you. Where attention goes, energy flows. This is one of the simplest truths about the human mind, and yet it is one of the most overlooked. Each of us is born with the ability to think, to imagine, to focus, and to direct our attention towards something. But the real question is, what do we focus on? Do we direct our energy toward what we want, or do we scatter it on distractions, worries, and trivial pursuits? Your focus is like a beam of light. The more concentrated it is, the more powerful it becomes. Think about the difference between ordinary sunlight and a magnifying glass directing that light onto one small spot. The sunlight warms, but when focused, it can ignite a flame. The same principle applies to your mind. Unfocused thought is harmless, but focused thought creates power. It shapes destiny. The tragedy of life is that most people never harness this principle. They allow their minds to wander like a ship without a compass, drifting from one worry to the next, one distraction to another. Instead of deliberately choosing where to direct their energy, they let the world decide for them. And the result is scattered effort, wasted time, and unfulfilled potential. If you study the lives of great men and women, you'll find one common thread. They knew how to focus. They chose one aim, one vision, one purpose, and they gave it their full attention. The writer dedicates himself to words, the scientist to discovery, the leader to progress. Each pours their energy into a single direction, and in time the results appear inevitable. But nothing about it was inevitable. It was born from focus. Think of your own life. Every result you have today is the outcome of your past focus. If your focus has been scattered, so have your results. If your focus has been clear, then you have achieved something meaningful. This law never fails. Where you place your attention is where you place your future. But here lies the challenge. Focus requires discipline. It requires saying no to the countless temptations that pull at your mind every day. It means resisting the easy path of distraction and committing to the harder path of consistency. Most people never learn this discipline, so they live in a constant state of reaction, reacting to circumstances, to people, to the environment, never realizing that focus is not something you wait for, it is something you create. And yet the reward of focus is extraordinary. When you learn to give your attention fully to what matters most, life itself begins to reorganize in your favor. Opportunities appear, not because they were absent before, but because you were too distracted to see them. Energy returns, not because you suddenly became stronger, but because your mind stopped wasting itself on the unimportant. Progress accelerates, not because life became easier, but because you stopped scattering your effort. Every person has the same hours in a day. The difference between success and failure lies not in time, but in focus. Two people can work the same hours, but one, through scattered thought, achieves little, while the other, through directed focus, achieves much. The principle is timeless, and it applies to every field of human endeavor. The future you desire is already within reach, but it demands your attention. Focus on doubt and you will see reasons to quit. Focus on faith and you will see reasons to continue. Focus on problems and they will grow. Focus on solutions and they will multiply. Your focus is the lens through which reality is shaped. So decide now what you will give your attention to. Guard it, protect it, as you would protect your very life, because in truth it is your life. Your energy will always follow your focus, and wherever you place that focus, there your future will be waiting. The discipline of the mind is the most important discipline a human being can ever develop, because the quality of your life will always mirror the quality of your thoughts. We live in a world filled with endless noise, distractions, and influences. Every day, thousands of thoughts rush through the mind, and most people allow them to flow unchecked, never questioning whether those thoughts are useful, destructive, or aligned with the life they want. But here is the unshakable truth. The person who gains mastery over their thoughts gains mastery over their destiny. When you wake up in the morning, your mind immediately begins to present you with ideas, reminders, doubts, and possibilities. Most of these thoughts are not consciously chosen. They are habits built over years. If the habit is negative thinking, then the mind will pull you back to fear, to scarcity, to self-doubt. But if you deliberately train your mind to think on courage, growth, and purpose, the thoughts that rise will push you forward. This requires discipline, and discipline is never easy. It is a daily practice, not a single act. The discipline of the mind is the ability to catch yourself in the moment of a negative thought and replace it with a better one. It is recognizing when fear has entered and choosing not to let it stay. It is noticing when you are picturing failure and instead deliberately imagining success. Just as a muscle grows with repeated training, the mind becomes stronger every time you take control instead of letting it wander freely. Over time, what once felt unnatural becomes instinctive. Consider this: every action begins with a thought. If you discipline the thought, you discipline the action. If you discipline the action, you discipline the result. But when the thought is left undisciplined, the action is inconsistent and the result is accidental. Too many people live accidental lives simply because they do not rule their own minds. They allow fear, other people's opinions, and random distractions to become the masters of their thoughts. And when your thoughts are not your own, your future is not your own. The disciplined mind refuses to be a servant to doubt. It recognizes that setbacks are temporary, that failure is only feedback, and that persistence will always carve a path through difficulty. Such a mind holds firm to the vision of the goal, no matter how long the journey takes. It focuses not on the obstacles, but on the solutions. It does not waste energy worrying about what cannot be controlled. Instead, it uses all energy to act upon what can be controlled. That is the essence of mental discipline, directing thought toward progress instead of paralysis. It is important to understand that no one is born with this ability fully developed. Every great thinker, every leader, every achiever has had to train it, sometimes through years of struggle. They had to silence the voice that said it can't be done and strengthen the voice that said keep going. This training never truly ends, because the mind is like a wild horse. It must be guided daily. The moment you let go of the reins, it runs wherever it pleases, and often it runs toward fear. Discipline is holding the reins firmly and guiding the mind where you want it to go. In every field of life, business, art, relationships, health, the individuals who rise to the top are not necessarily the most talented or the most fortunate. They are the ones who have disciplined their minds to stay focused when others get distracted, to stay positive when others give up, and to stay steady when others panic. They are living proof that mental discipline is more valuable than talent, because talent without discipline is wasted, while discipline without talent still leads to growth. If you want to create a life of meaning, you must begin with your thoughts. Guard them, direct them, and choose them carefully. Do not let the world decide what you think about. Train your mind as you would train a soldier. Loyal, focused, and unwavering. In time, that discipline will give you strength greater than any obstacle, clarity greater than any confusion, and success greater than any failure. And you will discover the profound truth. The person who controls their mind controls their world. Negativity is one of the most destructive forces in a human life, and it often hides behind familiar masks: worry, fear, doubt, jealousy, resentment, and regret. At first it may appear small, almost harmless, but the truth is, once allowed to settle in the mind, it grows roots, And just like weeds in a garden, it does not need encouragement. It multiplies on its own, choking out the healthy seeds of faith and ambition. This is why negativity is the silent destroyer of dreams, and why so many talented men and women never rise to the life they could have lived. Every failure you see in life can be traced back not to a lack of ability, but to a way of thinking. When a person constantly entertains the thought, "I can't do it," the mind begins to accept that belief as reality, and what the mind accepts, it makes true. That person will not put in the necessary effort, will not search for solutions, will not persist when obstacles arise, because deep down they have already decided the outcome before even trying. Negativity creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. It programs failure before the race even begins. Worry is perhaps the most common form of negativity. People spend their precious energy imagining disasters that never come. Studies and observation both reveal that the vast majority of things people worry about never actually happen. Yet worry consumes mental strength, distracts from purpose, and weakens the spirit. It is wasted energy. Fear operates the same way. It paralyzes action. Fear says, "Wait until the perfect time." And so people wait, not realizing that perfect time never comes. While they hesitate, opportunities pass, doors close, and regret takes root. Negativity also shows up as envy and resentment. Instead of being inspired by the success of others, the negative mind feels threatened by it. Instead of asking, "What can I learn from this person?" it asks, "Why not me?" This poisonous thinking blinds the individual from seeing that the very things they envy are available to them too, if only they chose to discipline their thoughts and actions. Negativity thrives on comparison, while positivity thrives on inspiration. The cost of negativity is not only emotional or mental, it is physical. A person who feeds their mind with fear and worry lives in a constant state of tension. Their body reacts with stress, fatigue, and even illness. The connection between thought and health is undeniable. A negative mind cannot produce a strong, vibrant life. In contrast, a disciplined, positive mind radiates energy, resilience, and vitality. To overcome negativity, a person must first recognize it for what it is, a choice. Thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. Just because a negative idea enters the mind does not mean it must be entertained. One can reject it, replace it, and choose better. This is the discipline of the mind. It takes practice, but the reward is freedom. Every time you replace fear with faith, worry with focus, or doubt with determination, you strengthen the mental muscle that will carry you to success. The tragedy is that many people allow negativity to dominate simply because they do not guard their thoughts. They read, listen, and speak negativity every day without realizing they are feeding the very force that destroys them. But the moment you become aware, you gain power. You can choose what you read, what you listen to, who you associate with, and what you allow to stay in your mind. That power of choice is the cure. Negativity leads to failure because it kills action. Success demands movement, persistence, and courage, while negativity paralyzes, delays, and weakens. The two cannot coexist. You cannot hold a burning vision of success in your mind while nurturing thoughts of failure. One will always push the other out, and the one you feed most will win. This is why the discipline of rejecting negativity is not optional, it is essential. Your thoughts are the architects of your destiny, and if you allow fear, worry, and doubt to build your life, you will live in a house of failure. But if you rise each day determined to fill your mind with courage, gratitude, and belief, no force of negativity can take root in you. You will move forward, you will persist, and in time you will discover that life has always been a mirror of your dominant thoughts. Vision and purpose are at the very heart of a successful life. They act as the compass that guides us through uncertainty and keeps us moving when the road becomes difficult. Without a clear vision, a person drifts. They react to circumstances instead of creating them. They live day by day, waiting for opportunities rather than building them. But when you carry a definite purpose in your mind, your life takes on a completely different shape. Your thoughts align, your energy aligns, and even your subconscious begins working tirelessly in the background to bring your vision into reality. A vision is nothing more than a picture of the future that you deliberately choose to see. It may begin as a faint idea, a spark of possibility, or even a dream that seems out of reach. Yet, once you hold on to it with persistence, that vision grows stronger. It becomes clearer, sharper, more defined. And soon it begins to influence every decision you make, every step you take, and every path you choose. It directs your focus. It gives your efforts meaning. It transforms your work from routine into mission. Purpose is what fuels the vision. It is the why behind what you do. A person with a strong purpose cannot be stopped by failure, cannot be broken by rejection, and cannot be discouraged by temporary setbacks. They may fall 100 times, but they will rise 101, because their purpose demands it. The power of purpose is what separates those who merely exist from those who truly live. A person with purpose wakes up in the morning with fire in their heart and clarity in their mind. Think about how the human mind works. It is constantly searching, calculating, and processing. When you give it no clear direction, it feeds on whatever is around it: fear, worry, distraction. But when you hand it a vision and fuel it with purpose, it begins to organize everything around that single target. Ideas appear that you would not have noticed before. People show up who can help you move forward. Circumstances begin to align not because of luck, but because you are finely tuned to see and seize what was always there. Great achievements in history were not accidents. They were born from individuals who saw something long before it existed. The scientist who discovered a cure, the leader who fought for freedom, the inventor who reshaped the world. They all lived first in vision. And because their vision was tied to a deep purpose, they were willing to sacrifice, to endure hardship, and to devote their lives to making it real. Purpose gives you strength when nothing else can. There will be times when you will feel tired, when results will not show as quickly as you hoped, and when the world will tell you that it cannot be done. Without purpose, you will listen to those voices. You will begin to doubt yourself. But with purpose, you rise above them. You hold on to your vision, because it is not just about you, it is about the mission you were meant to fulfill. This is why vision and purpose are not luxuries, they are necessities. They are not things you find, they are things you build. And once you build them, they build you in return. A life without them drifts endlessly, but a life with them becomes unstoppable. For in the end, you truly do become exactly what you think about. And if your thoughts are anchored in vision and fueled by purpose, your future is certain. Cause and effect is one of the simplest yet most powerful truths in life, and it applies to the mind in a way many people overlook. Every effect in your life, whether success, failure, joy, or disappointment, has a cause. That cause is rooted in the way you think. The thoughts you hold most often, the mental pictures you replay, and the beliefs you accept as true set into motion a chain of events that ultimately create the conditions of your reality. You do not escape this law, no one does. It is as unchanging as gravity. What you sow in thought, you reap in circumstance. When a person thinks constantly about fear, about loss, about limitation, they are setting causes in motion that will bring those very conditions into their life. The mind becomes consumed with barriers, and soon the eyes only see problems. Decisions are made from a place of hesitation, actions are timid, and opportunities pass by unnoticed. The effect is failure, not because the world conspired against them, but because the individual planted seeds of defeat in their own consciousness. They invited the outcome by dwelling on it. On the other hand, consider the man or woman who fills their mind with courage, with vision, with faith in their abilities. Every morning they picture themselves advancing. They think of solutions instead of problems. They dwell on goals rather than obstacles. Those thoughts cause them to walk with a different posture, to speak with confidence, to act with determination. Others sense this energy. Doors begin to open, and the effect is opportunity, growth, and success. The cause was simple. They decided to think about victory until victory became inevitable. This law of cause and effect does not care about your background, your environment, or your current situation. It only responds to your dominant mental patterns. The same way electricity does not favor one person over another, the mind responds mechanically to what it is fed. That is why two people can live in the same city, face the same challenges, and yet end with entirely different destinies. One thinks in terms of problems and is crushed by them. The other thinks in terms of possibilities and rises above them. The difference lies in thought, the cause that creates the effect. Every invention, every business, every achievement you see around you is proof of this law in action. A person thought of an idea, held it firmly, believed in it, and acted upon it. Slowly the world bent to match that inner image. The cause was a thought, the effect was the result you now see. If thoughts can build airplanes and skyscrapers, imagine what they can do in shaping the course of your own life. You are living proof of your past thinking. Your present circumstances, good or bad, are the effects of causes you set in motion long ago through what you consistently allowed your mind to dwell upon, and your future will be the effect of the causes you are setting today. This truth carries both a warning and a promise. If you persist in entertaining thoughts of worry, envy, doubt, or mediocrity, the effect will be a life that reflects those very things. But if you discipline your mind to think of growth, of abundance, of service, and of determination, the effect will be a life that matches that vision. This is the unbreakable law of cause and effect in the realm of thought. You cannot think failure and achieve success. You cannot think weakness and live in strength. But the moment you choose to fill your mind with faith, purpose, and clarity, the world begins to shift in your favor. The effect always follows the cause, and the cause is always in your hands.